stays with the same three children for the entire school year. And we train them with the curriculum, the SEEDS program, and it works on the developmental skills of learning and recognizing letters and numbers and colors. It's something that a pre-K student can learn.
The high school students that are working with the Shark Pups are all part of the Teal Academy, which is our teaching academy. These students have showed interest in wanting to be teachers, so any type of early exposure that we can give our high school students working with our VPK students, I think is very beneficial to see whether they want to actually be teachers.
If students my age want to teach and be a teacher, I think it's a good head start. If they want to work in elementary school, it would be easier for them to teach the kids and know how to work in that environment.
I get back the feeling of knowing that I'm helping a little kid learn how to read and count and to achieve more in school.
5, 6, 7. Good job. You found the 7.
3 children for the entire school year. And we train them with the curriculum, the SEEDS program, and it works on the developmental skills of learning and recognizing letters and numbers and colors, and something that a pre-K student can learn.
The high school students that are working with the Shark Pups are all part of the Teal Academy, which is our teaching academy. These students have showed interest in wanting to be teachers. So any type of early exposure that we can give our high school students working with our VPK students, I think is very beneficial to see whether they want to actually be teachers.
If students my age want to teach and be a teacher, I think it's a good head start. They want to work in elementary school. It would be easier for them to teach the kids and know how to work in that environment.
I get back the feeling of knowing that I'm helping a little kid learn how to read and count and to achieve more in school.
7. Good job. You found the 7.
volunteer stays with the same 3 children for the entire school year. And we train them with the curriculum, the SEEDS program, and it works on the developmental skills of learning and recognizing letters and numbers and colors, and something that a pre-K student can learn.
The high school students that are working with the Shark Pups are all part of the Teal Academy, which is our teaching academy. These students have showed interest in wanting to be teachers. So any type of early exposure that we can give our high school students working with our VPK students, I think is very beneficial to see whether they want to actually be teachers.
If students my age want to teach and be a teacher, I think it's a good head start. They want to work in elementary school. It would be easier for them to teach the kids and know how to work in that environment.
I get back the feeling of knowing that I'm helping a little kid learn how to read and count and to achieve more in school.
7. Good job. You found the 7.
volunteer stays with the same 3 children for the entire school year. And we train them with the curriculum, the SEEDS program, and it works on the developmental skills of learning and recognizing letters and numbers and colors. It's something that a pre-K student can learn.
The high school students that are working with the Shark Pups are all part of the Teal Academy, which is our teaching academy. These students have showed interest in wanting to be teachers. So any type of early exposure that we can give our high school students working with our VPK students, I think is very beneficial to see whether they want to actually be teachers.
If students my age want to teach and be a teacher, I think it's a good head start. If they want to work in elementary school, it would be easier for them to teach the kids and know how to work in that environment.
I get back the feeling of knowing that I'm helping a little kid learn how to read and to count and to achieve more in school.
5, 6, 7. Good job. You found the 7.
We had the superintendent's challenge for reading and math. One student in the elementary level that won the reading award, and they won an iPad, and that student is Grace Ellis. Come on up. How many books did you read? Oh my gosh, you read all summer, didn't you? Last summer, I issued the superintendent's summer challenge, and you could either take it in math or reading. And out of all the high school students, the winner is a Pine Ridge student, and they win an iPad. And the winner is Amani Taylor. Congratulations, Sybil. How much time did you spend working on that math program? Every day? Do you love math?
And the Volusia County Teachers of Math and Science would also like to give you a gift card and congratulate you. So,
The second year in a row, she took the the superintendent's academic challenge. She chose reading. You could do reading or math, and she won it. She wins another iPad. And it goes to Carliana. Are you surprised? Congratulations. Well done. And that student is Kamaria. It's just wonderful that you spent the time this summer investing in reading and in math, and you're well deserving. And it's having 2 students at the same school in the same grade level. It's just really neat.
On Tuesdays, STAR visits and we do STAR stations. We work on neuroscience, aerodynamics, coding. It depends on the week. They rotate them on a regular basis. And so we come together and collaborate and create lessons that we're going to work with the kids. The kids get small group instruction and then they rotate every 10 minutes. Basically get the STEM side of the activities.
Awesome.
Wait, I got both.
Yeah, I know, I saw that. We really need to hit them on the foundation, so elementary school is where we need to start. To inspire them really as soon as possible, to get them on the right track, and to follow them with the educators and the parents tied in the school system and Space Training Adventure. It's a common effort to lead them right on track to the proper college that they need to be, and then eventually to the companies hire them, thus the cradle to career concept.
I'm a firm believer that STEM should be rooted in elementary school. A lot of times when we start STEM in the middle school or the high school, you already have a student who has a pretty firm base of whether or not they enjoy math and they enjoy science. I'm giving them a unique perspective into activities that they didn't realize were science, technology, engineering, and math related. And so I feel like I'm opening up the audience for especially Volusia County, Sweetwater students to be able to move into STEM careers and be passionate about it and start it now.
Today is actually going to be our second year of implementing the house system here at Spirit Elementary. We started it last year. The teachers were all sorted based on a personality test by Myers-Briggs. The purpose of the sorting is to put them into the 4 different houses, and we want them to be able to not necessarily work with just their grade level, but the whole entire school. So we want kindergartners to get to know 5th graders and 5th graders to get to know 2nd graders, and so on. We're building a community here, working together, and hopefully we can see some great things going on campus. We use it as a positive reinforcement, so students actually earn tickets, and every ticket that they get goes into their house. And at the end of each month, we have a house winner, and they are rewarded with different prizes, some type of special treat for them.
volunteer stays with the same 3 children for the entire school year. And we train them with the curriculum, the SEEDS program, and it works on the developmental skills of learning and recognizing letters and numbers and colors. It's something that a pre-K student can learn.
The high school students that are working with the Shark Pups are all part of the Teal Academy, which is our teaching academy. These students have showed interest in wanting to be teachers. So any type of early exposure that we can give our high school students working with our VPK students, I think is very beneficial to see whether they want to actually be teachers.
If students my age want to teach and be a teacher, I think it's a good head start. If they want to work in elementary school, it would be easier for them to teach the kids and know how to work in that environment.
I get back the feeling of knowing that I'm helping a little kid learn how to read and to count and to achieve more in school.
5, 6, 7. Good job. You found the 7.
We had the superintendent's challenge for reading and math. One student in the elementary level that won the reading award, and they won an iPad, and that student is Grace Ellis. Come on up. How many books did you read? Oh my gosh, you read all summer, didn't you? Last summer, I issued the superintendent's summer challenge, and you could either take it in math or reading. And out of all the high school students, the winner is a Pine Ridge student, and they win an iPad. And the winner is Amani Taylor. Congratulations. So, how much time did you spend working on that math program? Every day? Do you love math?
And the Volusia County Teachers of Math and Science would also like to give you a gift card and congratulate you.
The second year in a row, she took the summer, the superintendent's academic challenge. She chose reading. You can do reading or math. And she won it. She wins another iPad. And it goes to Carliana. Are you surprised? Congratulations. Well done. And that student is Kamaria. It's just wonderful that you spent the time this summer investing in reading and in math, and you're well deserving. And it's having 2 students at the same school in the same grade level. It's just really neat.
joined band on a whim, and just seeing that how much dedication I put into that and how much love I've grown for this, it's just an amazing feeling to be able to finally just know I got there.
On Tuesdays, STAR visits and we do STAR stations. We work on neuroscience, aerodynamics, coding. It depends on the week. They rotate them on a regular basis. And so we come together and collaborate and create lessons that we're going to work with the kids. The kids get small group instruction and then they rotate every 10 minutes. Basically get the STEM side of should be rooted in elementary school. A lot of times when we start STEM in the middle school or the high school, you already have a student who has a pretty firm base of whether or not they enjoy math and they enjoy science. I'm giving them a unique perspective into activities that they didn't realize were science, technology, engineering, and math related. And so I feel like I'm opening up the audience for especially Volusia County, Sweetwater students to be able to move into STEM careers and be passionate about it and start it now.
actually going to be our second year of implementing the house system here at Spirit Elementary. We started it last year. The teachers were all sorted based on a personality test by Myers-Briggs. The purpose of the sorting is to put them into the 4 different houses, and we want them to be able to not necessarily work with just their grade level, but the whole entire school. So we want kindergartners to get to know 5th graders, and 5th graders to get to know 2nd graders, and so on. We're building a community here, working together, and hopefully we can see some great things going on campus. We use it as a positive reinforcement, so students actually earn tickets, and every ticket that they get goes into their house. And at the end of each month, we have a house winner, and they are rewarded with different prizes, some type of special treat for them.
volunteer stays with the same 3 children for the entire school year, and we train them with the curriculum, the SEEDS program, and it works on the developmental skills of learning and recognizing letters and numbers and colors. It's something that a pre-K student can learn.
The high school students that are working with the Shark Pups are all part of the Teal Academy, which is our teaching academy. These students have showed interest in wanting to be teachers, so any type of early exposure that we can give our high school students working with our VPK students, I think is very beneficial to see whether they want to actually be teachers.
If students my age want to teach and be a teacher, I think it's a good head start. If they want to work in elementary school, it would be easier for them to teach the kids and know how to work in that environment.
I get back the feeling of knowing that I'm helping a little kid learn how to read and to count and to achieve more in school.
5, 6, 7. Good job. You found the 7.
We had the superintendent's challenge for reading and math. One student in the elementary level that won the reading award, and they won an iPad, and that student is Grace Ellis. Come on up. How many books did you read?
I think like 13 or 11.
Oh my gosh, you read all summer, didn't you? Last summer, I issued the superintendent's summer challenge, and you could either take it in math or reading. And out of all the high school students, the winner is a Pine Ridge student, and they win an iPad. And the winner is Amani Taylor. Congratulations, Syl. How much time did you spend working on that math program? Every day? Do you love math?
And the Volusia County Teachers of Math and Science would also like to give you a gift card and congratulate you.
The second year on the road, she took the the superintendent's academic challenge, and she chose reading. You could do reading or math, and she won it. She wins another iPad. And it goes to Carliana. Are you surprised? Congratulations. Well done. And that student is Kamaria. It's just wonderful that you spent the time this summer investing in reading and in math, and you're well deserving. And it's having 2 students at the same school in the same grade level. It's just really neat.
I joined band on a whim, and just seeing that how much dedication I put into that and how much love I've grown for this, it's just an amazing feeling to be able to finally just know I got there.
On Tuesdays, STAR visits and we do STAR stations. We work on neuroscience, aerodynamics, coding. It depends on the week. They rotate them on a regular basis. And so we come together and collaborate and create lessons that we're going to work with the kids. The kids get small group instruction and then they rotate every 10 minutes. Basically get the STEM side of the activities.
Awesome!
Wait, I got both!
Yeah, I know, I saw that! We really need to hit them on the foundation, so elementary school is where we need to start. To inspire them really as soon as possible to get them on the right track and to follow them with the educators and the parents tied in the school system and Space Training Adventure. It's a common effort to lead them right on track to the proper college that they need to be and then eventually to the companies thus the cradle to career concept.
I'm a firm believer that STEM should be rooted in elementary school. A lot of times when we start STEM in the middle school or the high school, you already have a student who has a pretty firm base of whether or not they enjoy math and they enjoy science. I'm giving them a unique perspective into activities that they didn't realize were science, technology, engineering, and math related. And so I feel like I'm opening up the audience for especially
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. I'd like to bring the Volusia County School Board meeting of January the 9th, 2018, the first one of this year, the first one of the second semester, to order. Can you all please stand and join us for the pledge? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for attending tonight and those who are online listening. I'd like to introduce our dais in front. To my left, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Ida Wright from District 2, the Daytona area. To her right is Mrs. Johnson, who is not with us this evening due to a family emergency. Please keep her in your thoughts and prayers. To my left is Mr. Ted Doran, our school board attorney. I guess he's a traveling kind of gentleman who enjoys Montana during Christmas break. Also, over to my right, in front of all of you, is Miss Connie Wines, recovering from a foot injury. Glad to have her back. She is our school board vice president, I would think. She's definitely in charge of all of us. Next to her sits Mr. Carl Persis. He's from District 4, the Ormond area. Next to him is Dr. John Hill, District 1, the DeLand Pearson area. And then to my right, the esteemed Mr. James T. Russell, our superintendent. And I am your humble Volusia County chairman. I should correct that. In the Me Too movement, I'm the chairwoman. I'm Mrs. Linda Cuthbert, representing the proud District 3, which is Southeast Volusia. Okay, the items for approval on this agenda are items 2.02, 4.01, 5.01, 13.01, 16.01, 19.01, 19.02, and 20.01. We will have public participation 2 times today. Shortly, the first one will occur shortly for items requiring approval on this agenda and for items of general interest pertaining to public education in Volusia County. And the one later is for public comment on the amendments up for adoption tonight. To begin our meeting, we usually have a board member who comments regarding our district vision statement, and tonight we will listen to the comments from Mrs. Ida Wright and her wisdom.
Good evening, and again, Happy New Year as we launch upon our 3rd semester of school. We just look for continuous growth and great success. Once again, welcome back from the holiday and Happy New Year.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Wright. Now, do we have any agenda changes or any items of removal from the consent agenda, Mr. Superintendent?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, then I'd like to have a motion then from the dais to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it has been, Mrs. Wright has given it a first motion. It has been seconded by Dr. Hill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Okay, the motion has passed. We will now have public participation concerning items on the agenda and items of general interest to public education in Volusia County. Okay, thank you. All right, when you, ladies and gentlemen, come to the dais, you may sit in the very front where we can very clearly see and hear you. Please state your name and your address for the record. And I also caution everyone in the audience to please have all your electronic devices on silent, because otherwise you will be paying a $50 check tonight in the honor of Futures Foundation, which will benefit our schools if we hear any ding-a-lings go off. Okay. All right, first one to hear from is a Mr. Ed Sullivan. Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ed Sullivan. I live at 165 Oakley Drive in Enterprise. I have 2 children who graduated from the Volusia County school system. And I'm here tonight because I wanted to talk about a little bit about Florida's House Bill 989, aimed at empowering Floridians to object to the use of specific instructional materials in public schools, signed by Rick Scott on June 26, 2017. With the law now in place, any county resident, not just a parent with a child in the county's public schools, as was the case previously, can now file a complaint about instructional materials in the county's public school, and the school will have to appoint a hearing officer to hear the complaint. I wanted to ask you if you have had any complaints or have a plan to how do you get a hearing officer, because it's not employed by the school, there's no budget for it. And I'd also like to volunteer my services to review materials or to be a hearing officer if needed at free of charge. I'm an engineer with a bachelor's degree from Johns Hopkins University, and I have a very strong interest in science education. And before I give up the floor here to answer the question, I also wanted to make you aware of an organization called Florida Citizens for Science. I'm just going to read you quickly their mission statement. Florida Citizens for Science is a statewide nonprofit grassroots organization made up of those who wish to help our state develop and maintain the highest educational standards. We support science-based curricula, textbooks, testing methods, and appropriately trained teachers to provide students with the analytical skills and understanding necessary for the good of our communities, our state, our country, and our world. We welcome members with different political views, religions, and philosophies, but maintain that the proper focus of science education is the study of the natural world through observation, testing, and analysis. And their website is flascience.org. A very good organization. One of our previous spokesman for the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, Brandon Haught, is their communication officer and a friend. And with that, I'd just like to say thank you for hearing me.
Hey, Mr. Sullivan, we cannot answer your question tonight, but our superintendent has your information, and someone from the district will be contacting you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Shannon Young.
Good evening. Shannon Young, 725 North Adele Avenue, DeLand, Florida, 32720. Good evening, Madam Chair Cuppeth, Superintendent Russell, and distinguished board members. Tonight, I come to share with you on behalf of the Volusia Association of School Administrators, VASA, which is a chapter of the Florida Association for School Administrators, FASA. I am here as a representative for the West Side Elementary principals and the proud principal of Spirit Elementary. As we kick off the new school year, semester and year, I feel the need to share with you the mission and the desired roles of principals in our outstanding district. Many times, principals have been depicted as the boss, often of the school or the organization. And the word boss gives those of us who are passionate and committed to building the next generation of learning opportunities for all students a negative connotation. That was the ideals of 20 years ago. Just as education has changed in the past 20 years, so is the role of leadership. I'm here to share with you that that is no longer the ideology of my colleagues or my peers. Today, with the amazing supports of our district, quality professional learning, dedicated teachers, the role of principal has taken on a very different meaning. When you walk on any campus in Volusia, you will see the principals more as the leader, the lead learner, the community builder, the teacher mentors, and most importantly, guiding and supporting our students. By design, principals are required to go through years of training and professional development to ensure that they are highly qualified in their role. Principals are now the ones who identify how to make learning gains for all students and how to provide learning opportunities for careers that have not yet been developed. Principals today work with a much different skill set to ensure a positive school culture, and principals build and promote our faculty and staff. The leadership role brings on the need to inspire and follows the 3 guiding principles set forth by our superintendent, Mr. Russell. Dedication to increasing student achievement, commitment to finding solutions to problems, and mutual respect and positive relationships with all stakeholders. In closing, as we begin 2018, I want to encourage all of our correspondents to spread this message and continue to build the mission as leaders. After all, together we can. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, Miss Jeannie Maddox. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jeannie Maddox. I live at 2720 Saratoga Road in DeLand, 32720. It is my great pleasure to be here. Thank you, Madam Chairperson, Mr. Russell, distinguished members of the board. I am the president of the Volusia School Counselor Association and a board member of the Florida School Counselor Association. I am also a Volusia County School Counselor for 31 years. I'd like to talk to you today about the role of the school counselor. I want you to think about the school counselor that you may have had and that you may have known. Many of you probably knew that person as a guidance counselor. Your experience with that individual has probably colored your perceptions or your ideas of what a school counselor is and what a school counselor does. But today's school counselor is different than that guidance counselor of the 50s, the 60s, or the 70s. The term guidance counselor is outdated and does not reflect the role of today's school counselor. Just as we now say paraprofessional rather than teacher's aide and office specialist rather than secretary, the term school counselor has replaced that of guidance counselor. Guidance counselor is the old-fashioned term used for a teacher with no special counseling training who volunteered to take on the additional duties of helping to prepare our more promising students for college. At my high school, it was only the best and the brightest who saw the guidance counselor. The rest of us were left on our own to figure out what we needed to do to pursue education past high school. In Volusia County, our more than 100 school counselors are an essential part of their schools, learning to use data to address the attendance, academic, and discipline concerns experienced by their students. These school counselors work tirelessly to provide services to all students, not just the best and the brightest, but those who cover the entire academic and social emotional continuum. They are the champions of equity and the crusaders against bias. School counselors are the advocates for all students. Did you know that school counselors are required to have a master's degree in counseling, and that school counselors are on the front line each day providing mental health interventions and referrals in our schools? Did you know that school counselors are not only working to improve the social emotional learning of their students, but their academic success skills as well? And don't forget those skills considered essential by businesses. In the world of work, they tell us that they are looking for students who have those soft skills, such as punctuality, perseverance, creativity, and being able to get along with others. As you can see, our role has changed, and it only stands to reason that our name should change as well. So the next time you get ready to say guidance counselor, stop yourself and remember, times have changed, schools have changed, and so has the title of your school counselor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dennis Dickerson, please come. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Members of the board, my name is Dennis Dickerson. I reside at 900 Heron Point Circle in DeLand, 32724. I'm here this evening in my role as president of Victoria Gardens Men's Club, and I wanted to bring to your attention a activity or a program that we are initiating on behalf of high school students in Volusia County, and that is initiating a competition for art related to patriotism. And we are sponsoring a $200 first prize, Best of Show. And we are partnering with several other organizations, including the Navy League of the United States, who is also sponsoring a $100 prize, and the DeLand Naval Air Station Museum, which is also sponsoring a prize, and the Daughters of the American Revolution here in DeLand, which is also sponsoring a prize. So we wanted to bring to your attention the fact that this event is underway. I have copies of the letter and the rules that we've sent to your staff, and just for your information. And I wanted to bring to your attention the fact that we are doing this, and we're very pleased to be working with the school district as well as other parochial schools, high schools here in Volusia County. We feel it's very important that students have an opportunity to express patriotism in a very positive and productive fashion, and we believe this will be a very productive effort. The target date, actually the actual date that we've scheduled for the actual presentation of awards is April 7th, and that would be at Victoria Gardens Clubhouse. We have a website. There's information available on that as well as the rules. But I just wanted to be here this evening just to brief you very quickly on what we're doing, and we're just very pleased to be working with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could you, sir, give your information to Ms. Wines?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. This concludes our first public participation. Okay, Mr. Russell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 401, the resolution 2018-01, honoring Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. This will be made by Mrs. Nancy Waite.
Good evening, Chairman Cuthbert, members of the board, and Mr. Russell. Dr. King will be honored on the occasion of his birthday on Monday, January 15th. In celebration, there will be many events taking place throughout the community and in our schools, and many events that staff members and you will be participating in. Students will be involved in many learning activities related to Dr. King, including reading books and writing essays, competing in poster contests, participating in special events, and being visited by guest speakers. In addition, many of our media specialists have set up special displays and are promoting books about the civil rights movement. These are just a few examples of how our schools are honoring Dr. King in very creative ways on the occasion of his birthday. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Members, you have any questions? Any discussion?
It's 50 years, right? It's 50 years.
His assassination.
Yeah.
Yes.
50 years. That's hard to believe.
68.
58, yeah. In Memphis, Tennessee. I mean, that's just
April.
50 years ago. Golly.
Yeah, I remember.
Tragedy.
Right? Dr. Hill? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. White. Sorry, excuse me.
The superintendent recommends approval of Resolution 2018-01, honoring Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. on the occasion of the celebration of his birthday.
The superintendent has made a motion, has recommended that a motion be approved. Do I have a motion for approval from the board?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. It has, Mrs. Wright has given the first motion. It has been seconded by Dr. Hill. All those who are in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those who oppose, please say nay. Motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Wright. Okay, now we will have the approval of the consent agenda. Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it has been, a motion has been made to approve the consent agenda for our meeting January 9th by Dr. Hill. It was seconded by Mr. Persis. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those who are opposed, please say nay. Motion is carried. Thank you. The superintendent has his announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Volusia County Council PTA Reflections Reception will be held tomorrow night, Wednesday, January 10th, 2018, at 6 p.m. at the Museum of Arts and Sciences. The Teacher of the Year banquet will be this Friday, January 12th, 2018, at 6 p.m. at the Daytona Hilton by invitation only. Monday, January 15th, 2018, will be a holiday in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. All schools and district offices will be closed. Our next regular school board meeting will be Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018. Please note the time change. It will be at 5 p.m. at Citrus Grove Elementary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Superintendent. 15.01, Superintendent's presentations.
Yes, I would like to have Mr. Michael Cicchetti and Ms. Madeline Scamata to come forward. And what we're going to do is show you the school report card that is on each of the school's web pages. Mr. Persis initially saw what Seminole County was doing with their school report card, and following that, we saw in the paper last summer Orange County what they've designed, and so it's a bit of a fusion of both, and so we are working to redesign our webpage. And her degree is in information technology, and she is at work rebuilding our webpage. So this was, I think, one of your initial tasks, and so we're going to share it with you at this time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school board, and Superintendent Russell. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Ms. Madeline Scamenti, a valued member of Technology Services and Innovation. She'll briefly explain her role and completed and established work for the last year and beyond. At this time, here's Ms. Scamenti.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
So this is my first time presenting to the board. So I thought that it would be important or maybe helpful to describe what Web Services does. That's the team that I'm part of. We support the district website, myvolusiaschools.org, the elementary and middle school websites, and the intranet and team sites, and those are just internal collaboration websites for district employees. But my biggest focus is on the district website. Some things that we've done in 2017, getting used to being in 2018 now. One of the first things that I started with last year was refreshing the mobile design of the website, the district website. And what we've been working on year-round is making our website compliant with web accessibility standards, which essentially means it is accessible to everybody, including people with disabilities. One of the more recent projects we did over the summer was the Rumor Has It page. This was a page that I created for community information to post rumors and concerns that they've heard throughout the district, and it's an opportunity for them to respond and make that response public. And the most recent thing and the biggest thing that we worked on is the school report card pages, which will have its own side. And I can't really see that one. So each school, each of our high school, middle schools, and elementary schools on our district website have a school report card page. All of them have the same layout. They all have the same types of information available. Some of you may have noticed it if you go to the school's page. They all have 6 sections. So we have the school information, where we have information such as the address, the phone number, some basic contact information, who is the principal, and we have the courses and programs section. To me, I think this is the biggest place where schools can shine. We sent out a survey to the principals asking questions about the academies and special programs, extracurricular activities that they have, and what you see there is their responses. We also included Florida statewide assessments.
We worked with digital learning and assessment to gather the data, the testing data, and we are comparing each school, the previous 2 years, compared to last year's district average. It gives a big picture of how the school is improving and how they compare to the rest of the district. The attendance rates and demographics I've gathered from reports that our applications team has generated for us. And the climate surveys. I worked with Katie Dyer in this professional learning and school improvement, and she was wonderful and helped me get the data for the climate survey, again with the previous 2 years and the last year for the district. To view a school report card, you can go to our district website and go to the schools link on the main navigation, and you select school that you want to see. And I will note that we do still have the Continue to School website, that button there, if a lot of people do have that as their primary way to get to their school's website. You can go to the next one. So everything that we've worked on this year has been leading up to this district website redesign. A little history, our current design was launched in 2012, so it's beginning to grow outdated. And as Mr. Russell said, that's what prompted my position and me joining. Our goal to redesign the website is to make it a go-to source for information about our district, about our schools, and to really allow the schools to showcase who they are, in addition to making sure it's accessible to our community, which goes back to the web accessibility standards, making sure that no matter who you are, where you are, what device you're on, you can access it. To accomplish those goals, I think it is incredibly important to incorporate feedback from one, the community. We started to do that at the beginning of last year. We opened up a survey to the public. We got about 500 responses, including, we should also include feedback from Cabinet, because Cabinet is comprised of members of leadership all over the district. And as well as leadership in the community, I think it's important to reach out to district and school staff as well. So it's not just leadership making decisions, it's a mix of community leadership and members such as myself. We are expected to launch the district website fall 2018, and we will immediately begin the school websites after that. Okay. On the slide, oh, go ahead, sorry. On the slide you can see the high level overview of the project plan. Currently we're in the design phase. We're kind of in that planning, designing phase, and I'm meeting with Cabinet to show them concepts. And then from there on, hope to go live in October. And any questions?
Mrs. Wright?
I have one question. So will a website eventually push information out via social media, either Twitter or Facebook, to encourage people to come back to the website, or with particular links, if something we feel is important, they can come back to our website?
Yes, so that would be something that I would love to work with community information on, because they manage that. And with the new website, it will have the ability for them to call that data more easily. So yes, I think that would be a really great idea.
Great idea.
Dr. Hill? Mr. Persis?
Nice work so far, I guess. And so this, what is it? Is it rolling out now, or I know you said it's going to be in the fall of 2018?
Right now I'm in the design phase. So
okay.
On the slide, I know it's maybe a little hard to see from there, but I'd say the first 3 phases, which I'm in the second one now, I'm spending a lot of time planning and deciding what I will do before I even start building it.
Okay.
That way we can take that feedback, make sure that it's worth redesigning, and of course testing. The longest part is migrating, I think 10,000 pages worth of content over.
Right. So I guess what I'm leading up to here is it's January, and so will we see another version or see something before it's actually
yes, something
coming
to present. Yes.
Right.
So right now I'm meeting with cabinet every other week. Right now I'm in the concept phase where I'm taking, I've been calling them wireframes, where we're talking about where things will go. So instead of talking about, well, what color is it, what is it going to look like, we're talking about, well, what's important on the homepage?
Right.
What's important to have? And I'm bringing the concepts to them. They're voting. I'm also, I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to release those same surveys out to a group of people from the community. And then we'll start, then I'll go to another phase, which I call mock-up, which is where I'll create, essentially, it'll look exactly what it would look like when we develop. And we'll get that finalized. So that I expect to see spring.
Okay.
And then there'll be more like screenshots, so you'll see a better picture.
Great. Well, it sounds very exciting, and I'm sure when you get more into it, you know, because there's so much data out there, and you got to just pick and choose, and what is important to the schools and what is important to parents.
Yes.
You know, what is it that people would want to see when they look at a school report card? And our whole point was there's a lot more to schools than just a grade. Right. So much more than just that grade that we receive from Tallahassee. So to be able to showcase all the amazing things that are going on in each and every school, so that when realtors and parents and business people who don't even live here go and they're checking on a school, that they can get some idea of what that school is about, rather than just, oh, it's a C or it's a B or it's an A.
I agree. I think it'd be wonderful. I can relate. I live in Flagler. My son's starting kindergarten, and I would love to have this.
Yeah, awesome.
To research the schools. So as a parent, I actually see the need. So
Good.
I understand.
Thank you.
This is a huge undertaking. I can't even begin to imagine what each day will encompass. It's your world is very different from mine, so I do appreciate all your expertise, totally. When this is finished, then you will be in charge of keeping it up to date?
So, yes, web services will. So, in my role, I will be responsible for the layout, the system, making sure it's up to date. And then we do have another role. It's an open position a vacant position that we're looking to fill, and they will be in charge of managing the information on the website. Now, each department and school we call them webmasters, but they're content editors. And they know best what's going on in the school. So they're the ones putting up the news articles. They're the ones putting up what goes on that department homepage. And our role will be to monitor that to make sure that they are keeping it up to date. Or if they do get stuck trying to add a document, that we can assist them to get it up. And I'm looking very much forward to having that other person join the team.
Oh, yes, definitely to help.
And the development and content migration phase, I just want to mention, is the heart of where we will be deciding what will go onto the new website. So we won't just take the old and plop it over. We'll be taking the time and we'll see, oh, this document is from 2012. It doesn't need to go. Unless, of course, it's something that's worth considering to be archived. So with the new website, you will see fresher content.
Okay, because so right now we have our district website, but we also have websites from each schools that schools are supposed to keep up. So those school sites will be under your umbrella.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Because sometimes we do change principals, we change phone numbers, and a lot of times information, I'll go to try to find directions how to get there, and I have no clue, or the principal's name is not to be found, or where the athletic schedules, like girls basketball, where's their school basketball schedule found. So that is a huge thing to keep up with for 60 some schools.
It is difficult, and I think having a person dedicated to supervising that will be incredibly important. And our new system will make it a lot easier to edit that content. So I think right now a lot of content editors we have office specialists that to them it's been other duties as assigned, and they require us to help them a lot. And I think if we give them something that's easier to use, more intuitive, we'll see better content.
And it'll be more uniform too. It'll be similar, so one school will not be so different from another school. This is an excellent idea. Thank you. Thank you for bringing us into the 21st century. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okay. 1601 is the approval of student discipline regarding
Good evening, Chairman Cuthbert, school board members, and Mr. Russell. This evening we have one request concerning student discipline. For the request, recommendation is made that the superintendent request the board extend the suspension on students Alpha ID 1UQSG, 1QIKM, 1PDYK, and 1WPJU from school attendance through January 23rd, 2018 for the purpose of further study and evaluation.
The superintendent recommends the board extend the suspension of the aforementioned students from school attendance through January 23rd, 2018 for the purpose of further study and evaluation.
Okay, Mr. Russell has recommended that we approve student discipline regarding attendance. Do I have a motion?
Move approval of item 16.01.
Okay, and second?
Second.
Okay, it's been, Mr. Persis has given a first motion, and Mrs. Wright seconded it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion has passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
17.01, presentation of the safety and security best practices.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This will be presented by Mr. Chris Boyer, Assistant Director of Student Transportation Services, Fleet, and Finance. And Mr. Aiken.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Mr. Russell. Thank you for this opportunity for us to briefly go over this. Also, she actually took over this year, and as doing the assessments for us at each one of the schools, along with other staff members in the school system. And obviously, Mr. Chris Boyer here, he's got a few opening comments, and we'll get started.
Great. Thank you for your time this evening. Safety and security is a crucial aspect of the Volusia County School District's daily operations. Keeping the students of Volusia County Schools safe is always a top priority of district team members, from the administrative leadership to instructional and support staff. It takes a team effort to make this possible. This collaborative effort is carried out each day by this dedicated team through a rigorous and comprehensive safety and security program that is constantly reinforced as a reminder to all stakeholders that events in the news could happen on our campuses if we are not prepared. More and more we hear new tragic events plaguing our schools across the nation. From school shootings, hazings, and other threats of violence, it is always important to report potential threats before becoming a statistic, which will certainly have a lasting impact. Simply put, see something, say something. Grim reminders of catastrophic school-related events such as Columbine, Virginia Tech, and Sandy Hook resonate in our minds each time there is another school tragedy. We are more cognizant and on high alert because of these horrific occurrences. Each school faces unique challenges on a daily basis. Medical incidents to suicidal threats to student fights, no day is ever routine. Good intel by vigilant parties allow district administrators and law enforcement to diffuse a situation before it becomes a major disruption to the educational process. To facilitate a safe and secure learning environment, many factors are considered in our schools, including the goal of single point of access, crime prevention through environmental design, an electronic visitor management system, and the presence of SRDs and SROs on select campuses. Also, extensive communication and training on the district's procedures, as well as social media monitoring. These are just some of the ways that Volusia provides an extra layer of protection for our students and staff. I would like to personally thank everyone involved with the safety and security program, from administrators to support staff, to courageous students providing intel that may help prevent a tragedy.
Okay, and as you know, on the board docs, we actually had some background information for each board member to read through, and that's your little packet of the report that we're going to go over this evening. It's a quick overview that we'll be discussing tonight. I won't spend a whole bunch of time there, but we'll get started on that. Background information 2001, OPAGA actually was implemented into our Florida Statute 1006.07, which requires all school districts to review and do a self-assessment of their security practices to make sure they're efficient and cost-effective. And I'm happy to say that we are in full compliance currently right now of all of our best practices tonight, and we are required to come on board and present it to the board members within 30 days of our findings and our final reports that were submitted, and we're in full compliance.
So basically what we have to do on an annual basis is fill out a document called the Florida Safe Schools Assessment Tool, and this is a document that's established by the Florida Department of Education, and it has 33 best practices that are recommended by OPAGA, and each district has to ensure that they are in compliance with these 33 best practices. Again, it's an annual submittal. It's an excellent tool, allows us to submit our contact information, our site maps, and any other information relevant to our district and our sites. We had excellent support from DOE, and they offer tutorials throughout the year for any questions or any issues that may come up using this tool. Now, the VCS Safety and Security Program is broken up into 8 sections, 62 standards. It's an extremely comprehensive process, but we go above and beyond OPAGA requirements and recommendations. It's just the way we are. We're always an above and beyond type of district anyway. When it comes to the 8 categories, some of the things that we look at have to do with vulnerability assessments at schools. That's a document that each school is required to fill out on an annual basis to identify any internal or external threats or concerns that may exist on or near campus. We also conduct mock drills throughout the year, anything from a code red lockdown to a code yellow hazardous materials. Schools are required to conduct these drills to maintain compliance. We also have key control, which is extremely important, and also the monitoring of offenders and predators, crisis teams, and visitor management. So basically, each school has to be in compliance on an annual basis, and every school is visited. The way that the certification process works is when we visit a school, I'll go over that in a little bit more detail on a subsequent slide. We have the subject matter experts for each area, and we provide feedback and guidance to those departments and schools. And each school has 30 days from the day of the report to correct any deficiencies that may exist on campus. So the program is broken down into a couple of different areas. A couple of the big areas are our manual, our workbook, and vulnerability assessment. Basically, the safety and security manual is the same. It's the same template for all schools, but there is school-specific information that changes from school to school. Could be evacuation protocols, site maps, things of that nature. So what we do each March is we have a stakeholders meeting with all of the different areas that are part of the safety and security process, and we go over what worked, what didn't work, what do we need to improve on, what were the issues, any items of mutual concern, and how do we correct things. If something's not working, we take it out. If there's something we need, we go ahead and put it in. The assessment workbook is actually the nuts and bolts. This is where all of the documentation requirements and the observations and the interviews come into play. It's a very extensive book, but it's something that we've actually made more manageable over the years and eliminated a lot of redundancy. We also have best practices, which is a one-stop shop for everything. This basically has all of your forms and your manuals and your templates, and everything that you need for the safety and security program is located in SharePoint in this one area called best practices. It's just a way to make things more convenient and easier for the folks that are using them. When it comes to the safety and security manual, we always encourage the schools to distribute that only to safety and security team members. We do not want that distributed to every staff member. We encourage the schools to provide what I call the greatest hits version to their staff members and teachers that identify their specific roles and responsibilities, while the administrators have the major game plan. And we also discourage it from being put out there on district or school websites. Because we're protected by Florida Statute 119.071 because this is safety sensitive information. We share our manuals and our site maps with law enforcement each year, also fire departments for each entity. They come into our schools, they evaluate our schools and provide any input on ways that we can make things more efficient or safer on our campuses. So this is what the assessment schedule looked like for the 2017-2018 school year. Basically, the way this works is every site gets a visit every year. Every school and department will get a visit, whether it's from the assessment team or a solo site visit by Rosalind. The way the assessment works is the team will come out to the school and assess all of the different standards to make sure that everything is in compliance. They're going to inquire with staff members or students regarding interviews. They're going to go out and observe different aspects of the operation, and then there's going to be a debrief at the end, and we provide feedback, and it's all done in a manner to better assist the school if there are any deficiencies. We're a support system. We want to make sure that we're there to better assist them in tweaking any processes that they have on campus that might need a little bit of work. But 40 schools receive an assessment visit, then 40 schools receive a site visit. And the site visit is a solo visit. It doesn't include the team, but there's still a documentation review. We also may conduct some observations and interviews while on site. But it's mostly a one-on-one interaction with administration. You know, what are your needs? What do we need to take a look at? You know, as far as different infrastructure needs on your campus. We can walk the campus, make suggestions. Maybe you have an issue with the parent loop in the morning. You know, we'll try to come out and make these recommendations to you to make, you know, things more efficient on your campus. But issues are different at every campus, so we do see a wide variety of different things. When we visit for the assessment, we conduct a drill, and that's to demonstrate the competence of the staff and students on the drill in question. Now, they are not aware of the drill ahead of time. This is something that we decide on usually the morning of, and it's not necessarily your standard drill. We may not just pull a simple fire alarm. We may put you in a lockdown and then pull a fire alarm to see how you're going to respond, because if you're in a lockdown and a fire alarm goes off, you're in a lockdown, so that lockdown is going to supersede the fire alarm until we can, you know, determine that there actually is a fire. So we do this not to trick anyone or deceive anyone. We try to do this to make people think outside the box. Anyone can do the standard drills. We get complacent, so this is just a way to make the schools think about different scenarios that could legitimately happen on campus. Also, at the beginning of the year, we provide one-on-one training, especially with new TOAs or new assistant principals, to make sure that they thoroughly understand the whole process, and that the Safety and Security Office is there 150% for them whenever they need anything. So we make ourselves available to make sure that they're comfortable with the whole process. Well, last year we had the tornado drill during the week of January 23rd, and we now have one coming up the week of January 22nd this year. This is an excellent way to test the skills of the staff and students. It also gives us an opportunity to test our 800 megahertz radios, and we communicate all of the information regarding the event over the 800 megahertz radio. We make sure that we have numerous notifications just in case anyone missed the initial notifications, and we also have the Volusia County Emergency Operations Center, as well as other local entities, visit our campuses. There's usually 10 per year. They will conduct an observation and provide the feedback in an after-action report to the district to determine if there's any concerns or anything that needs to be addressed. One of the main issues that we see when we have these types of events, students taking the drill seriously, but we just need to keep reinforcing the importance of doing that. And again, Severe Weather Week, you'll probably see an email in the near future regarding the events coming up for the week of the 22nd.
Okay, and so all of the training that we've done, the tabletop exercises and the assessments that do our schools really focuses back on real-world events that actually occur. And so we look at each event that occurs on campus daily to make sure our plans are in place, to make sure that the school administrative team and the teachers know exactly what to do. Over the last 3 years, we have the data here for you, current year now, in the last 2 years. 1,400 events occurred in 2015-16. And in 16, 17, 1,137, and to date, as of November 30th, we had 448 events happened on our campuses. Leading the way is the medical emergencies. We have quite a bit of those, as you can see, over the last 3 years, and we kind of go down by the top 5 incidents and color code those events as going through. As you can see, we have severe weather, some of those in code blues, which are bomb threats, and several severe weather ones as well. So it's very important that we conduct our drills to make sure that when we have a real world event occurs, we're able to respond effectively to those events.
And as far as those events go, that information is compiled from the reports that are sent out from the area superintendent's office. So I just want to thank you for that information. That is very helpful to have that, and that's what we use to build our database. Moving on to Raptor, this is our visitor management system. And this was implemented in September of 2015, and as you can see, we do have quite a few folks that are on our campuses every day and throughout the year. There are 3 modules that we primarily use. There's an optional module for students, but we mostly focus on the visitors and the volunteers, as well as district staff that may be visiting a site. The system's very user-friendly. The support that we get from Raptor is exceptional. They're always very willing to hear our ideas on how to make the product better. We have several different alerts that we can have set up in the system so that anytime a person scans their license and let's say they're a registered offender or predator, it will flag that information and then administration can take appropriate action. There's also the flexibility of having what's called private alerts. So let's say you have custody issue or a spouse, that's not supposed to be on campus. That information can be set up for that school, and should that person attempt to check in, that flag would also go off. And also the emergency alerts that we're able to utilize. During the 16-17 school year, Raptor identified 28 offenders that attempted to access our schools. And as you can see, out of 233,000, we went up in 16-17, and I can only imagine 17-18 is going to be even higher this year.
It also tracks all of our volunteer hours, which is huge. It makes it's huge for Annette Hood to be able to track all those hours, and for those volunteers that help us day in and day out. As you remember, last year when we presented, we had some recommendations, and we're here to tell you that we met all those recommendations. The first one's outstanding that we have our school administrative staff actually assist us doing the assessment. It gives us twofold. Number one, it gives them some additional training, shows them a different way maybe of handling emergencies on their campuses, and plus it gets them more involved in our day-to-day operations. We did conduct 11 training sessions dealing with emergency management, safety, security, and hurricanes. And obviously we had 2 hurricanes last 2 years, so paid dividends again when we had Hurricane Irma come through. All of our administrative staff were trained at that during those sessions. We also held 9 training sessions last year dealing with security. Different topics are presented: cybersecurity, active shooter, behavior analysis, a bunch of programs that are out there. And it's open to all of our Volusia County School Board employees, and we have several of those come out. Our next one's, I think, is January 31st. I think it's Cybersecurity 101 and 201, so we're going to do 2 sessions that evening. And then change assessments to every other year we put in place. We're doing that now. Obviously, we go to every site, but only the team goes into half of those one year, then half the next year. We try to get in and get out as soon as possible. A couple of hours makes it in and out of the school so they can get back on with their businesses there. Our recommendations this year, we want to continue the best practice of recruiting our new administrative staff and others that want to come and help us conduct these assessments. Like I said, it's a great learning environment for them. They get to see how their schools respond, and they get to see some of the recommendations that we present on how to better the response process. We're also required to do an assessment of our 800 megahertz radio operation capability on our campuses by statute. We're required to have first responders, if they respond to a campus, their radio should be able to work anywhere on that campus. And so we have to do our assessment. Some of our campuses, the radios may not work. We may have to purchase repeaters, so those 800 megahertz radios will work if they have to respond. And I'm here to tell you we have 13 schools currently this year that we have the HESN sales tax money is going to go towards single point access camera systems and some cipher locks, along with some repeaters that need to go there. So that's what we're going to work towards. We've been working towards it half year now, working towards the second half. The reason we brought this forward in January is because Opaga changed their time frame. They go January to December now instead of July 1st to June 30th. And why they changed this past year, we're not sure, but we're bringing it forward to today so we can get back on track. So these recommendations would be from January to December of this next year coming up. With that, if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any of those questions you may have this evening.
Mr. Persis?
Yep. Just so glad I'm not a principal and having to go through one of your inspections again.
I can assure
they were
you
tough.
They're very
They were
efficient
tough.
now. There was a time where we would be at a campus for 4 to 5 hours, and now we're usually in and out in 2.
Oh, well, that's great. That's
a lot of
great.
our drills are focused on events that have occurred somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we try to bring that here to try to get it more realistic.
Yeah, I know. And you guys are great, and you guys are very helpful, and it's just nerve-wracking for the staff when you all show up. You know, it's like, oh, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? But it is excellent training for everyone. So, thank you for what you do. It was about a year ago we heard a presentation about through the half-cent sales tax and how some of that money was going to be used in your area. And Greg, I think you mentioned it with cipher locks and. The other part was those Knox box for the first responders, so they don't have to crash through a wall to get into the school. Are we putting those in schools? Can you give us?
We have just a couple of schools left with the Knox boxes to install. Blue Lake is one of those. I think we have a handful. So those are just about done.
Okay.
Currently, right now, our cipher locks are moving along. We're starting to install those. You know, we have them here. We have them at some of our campuses already, and as we go through, we're coming in one time on the campus and installing everything. DeLand High School is just about done. We just got to do the fencing there.
And I think you all mentioned elevators in high schools.
We're looking at elevators. Right now, the elevators have those. We're looking at proximity. I mean, not proximity, but these cards, RFID cards, to be able to swipe in. So students now, if I have access to it, they give that cut. So we're looking at moving in that direction as well.
Another couple items were swing gates and fencing, interior doors to be upgraded.
Yeah, we're doing some of those swing gates when we come into the campuses and start looking at the fencing they currently have in place. Some of those have rollback gates. We're going to do swing gates. And so we'll improve all of the fencing as we come in one project.
Okay. And so do you see all of those improvements being done this year, this 18 year?
Within the next 5 years. So we have basically 77 schools, and so we listed 13 that we're going to do this year based on $2 million. So we'll spend all of that with those 13 schools. Okay. And then we're going to do the next, I think there's 15 next year, and then within 5 years, every school will be touched.
So you mentioned the figure. So you're budgeting $2 million a year, and then you're using that $2 million, and that covers around 13 schools.
Yes,
that's
sir.
That's what you're saying. And is it you start at high school, middle, and then go down, or east, west, south? Just give me an idea of where your priorities are.
So currently, right now, all of our high schools have camera systems, and so we know by data too that we want to try to refresh. A lot of our camera systems are 10, 12, 15 years old, and so we split it by high school, middle school, elementary. So we try to touch each one of the levels. So we're doing 5 high schools this year. I think it's 4 middle schools, and then the remainder are elementary schools. And next year we're doing the other 5 high schools, middle schools, and then some more elementary, and then you'll see all elementary thereafter. High schools are most expensive because they're the biggest property that we currently have. Yeah. And so they take more of the money there, and plus, more probability of issues happening there than they are at the elementary school.
Yeah. Well, I think it's excellent. I appreciate what you do. Of course, safety and security is the utmost importance to all of us. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Wright?
No. Dr. Hill? The district has, I guess, its own security handbook. That's the model for everyone. Are all schools still required to turn in a security handbook once a year?
They do, and so it's all online now. It's in the intranet on the SharePoint, and so all of their documentation is now, we're trying to go paperless, so we have that.
Oh, good.
But they are required to have a hard copy in case we have a crash in the network system or they can't get to that document. They have it there, and that's why we do a lot of the training too. It should be secondhand. Make that first critical decision. Everything else will follow through. But they are required to have a hard copy and submit it to fire department, law enforcement, EOC, and then us as well.
Okay, and as a staff member, it was always the most tense day when we knew you guys were coming. It was always very difficult. We would have a game to see which faculty member or clerk or staff was picked to see, one of you guys didn't have your IDs on. So you still pull that?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so it was always a lot of fun. So we always gave a prize to the person who was picked. And anything to ease the stress. But it's an absolutely necessary procedure that we have to follow, especially in these days and times. So thank you, gentlemen and lady. Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
18.01, public comment. No cards. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Waite. Board action items, 19.01, the adoption of amendments to School Board Policy 206, student attendance policy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This presentation will be by Mr. Michael Dyer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The proposed amendments to Policy 206 constitute an update to your student attendance policy. This was last presented to you at your November 7th meeting. There have been no changes made to the proposal since that time. The proposed amendment is limited to implementing a change adopted by the legislature last year to mandate that school districts treat an absence for a student to attend autistic therapy sessions as an excused absence. This is something that was already in practice for us, but we're required to put the language in our policy. And that is the extent of this change. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Dyer? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Superintendent?
The superintendent recommends adoption of amendments to School Board Policy 203, student attendance policy.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the amendments of School Board Policy 203?
So moved.
Okay, it has been recommended to pass by Mrs. Wright. Dr. Hill has seconded. All those are in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The amendment policy has passed. Thank you, Mr. Dyer. Okay, 1902, the adoption of amendments to Policy 307, Student Progression Plan.
Mr. Dyer.
Okay. The proposed amendments to your student progression plan were presented to you at your November 7th meeting as well. There have been no changes made to the proposal since this time. This by far is your largest school board policy. It's 122 pages. Its chief purpose is to implement changes with regards to instructional programs and practices that are required by state law. I know we did go through a presentation to you last time. I would like Ms. Hazel to come up for a minute. We did receive a few questions just for clarification purposes we'd like to address on this proposal. Again, no changes have been made since it was last presented to you, but we'd like her to go over those.
Good evening. The questions that we had specifically regarded some statements that seemed repetitive and needed clarity within the document. For instance, final exams that cover the course performance standards as aligned with the adopted state standards are required in all year-long courses in grades 6 through 8, and then later there's a very similar statement that ends with all subject areas in grades 6 through 12. The reason that we have these repetitive or seemingly repetitive statements in the document are so that we can cover as many scenarios as possible. We frequently have situations come up that are very unique, and we get questions for clarification on those, and as clear and as many different scenarios as we can cover as possible are in that document.
It's different in substance, but appears very similar.
Correct. Also, we had a couple of questions about the clarification for EOCs and the language in that appears confusing. And that language is specific for when a child enters school. As the rules change and students get grandfathered in each year, the language for those specific students changes.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Persis?
Thank you for, those were my concerns that I brought up. And the language on the EOC thing, it doesn't just appear confusing. You can read it 3 times and still not understand what that means. And so, I mean, as long as somebody here can explain it to a parent, I guess, or a student, where they fall in all of that. But that is pretty hard, and I'm sure that's it's our legislators' fault for that. Well,
as the rules change for each year, so at each year that a student has entered 9th grade, 2011, 2012, right, the rules for them have changed.
Right, and so for each grade level, right, it continues to change, and depends on where they fall, which Correct. Rule applies to that.
And the high school guidance counselors do a wonderful job with that. So when they enroll the class of 2017, yeah, I remember with my son, they went through those requirements specifically. Yeah. Because he was part of that code.
Because so often students ask their friends, and of course that's like the worst.
It's different.
The worst. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, you don't have to do that. Well, you better check with your guidance, with your school counselor. Did I say guidance counselor?
You did too. Did I say guidance?
Yes, he did. He did. See, he put those words in my mouth. I caught myself.
I apologize.
She stayed to check up on you guys.
School counselor. So, yeah, I thank you for that. So this puts us now in compliance with all DOE's new rules and
yes,
new
sir.
Laws that were passed last year.
And generally, we're able to implement what the legislature adopted in the prior session in time for them to start again.
Yeah, and they start today.
That's right.
Or they started today. Right. Can't wait.
Okay, Dr. Hill?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Superintendent?
The superintendent recommends adoption of amendments to School Board Policy 307, Student Progression Plan.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the adoption of amendments to Policy 307, Student Progression Plan?
Move approval.
Okay, it has been moved by Mr. Persis and seconded by Dr. Hill. All those who are approved, please say aye. Aye. All those who oppose, please say nay. Motion is passed. Thank you. Okay, 20.1, items from board members, superintendent, and the school board attorney. Anyone like to start? Mrs. Wright?
I was sick the entire holiday, so I have nothing to report.
Really? Wow. Mr. Superintendent?
Certainly. I would like to thank the board members for your generous donation. Instead of exchanging gifts with each other, we use those funds to buy shoes for homeless students in our school district, and we purchased over 25 pairs of shoes, so thank you very much. And then also, I had the opportunity to visit Pearson Elementary. I know Mr. Persis did, and Mrs. Wright did as well.
Mrs. Johnson did too. I believe Mrs. Johnson did.
Who did I say?
Mrs. Wright.
Oh no, not Miss Wright. I meant Miss Johnson. I was looking over there. I'm sorry. They have really made progress there. They've topped it off, and I didn't know that was such a production when they do that, because now they can work on the interior, and it's amazing how quickly a building can be raised. Nowadays it's just phenomenal. So it's going to be a wonderful school. It really is.
Okay. Dr. Hill?
Yeah, sure. Several things. January the 11th, this Thursday, I'll be talking at the Swamp House Grill in DeBary to a group of publics invited about the state of charter schools and their effect on public education. And then January 26th, 27th, this year will be the 12th year of the EMS Military Expo at University High School. If you've never been able to attend, as a board member, you really should. It's they'll have about 9-10 helicopters come in that fly in. both medical ones, military ones. They will have the Army, the Marines, all other groups there with tents, doing activities with students. It's unbelievable, and all conducted and orchestrated by Perry Revelet, who's the athletic trainer there. So,
can you
during the day?
Yeah,
all day, yeah, on Friday.
it's worth it.
Which school?
University. So it'll start early in the morning. I want to say at 8 a.m. is what time it kicks off. But you want to be there just to see it. It's impressive. Then you can get on the helicopters a lot of times and inspect them. Pretty neat. And
you said it was the 26th and 27th?
26th, 27th, yes.
So which day should we get there?
The 26th is the day all the birds will come in.
Okay.
So it's pretty neat to see. And then March the 30th at University High School, they are having the first ever farm to table. And my reason for mentioning it so early is because it is a combination of many of the academies at the high school. Culinary is leading the charge, but I donated several of the pigs that I purchased from students in the county to the culinary department. So they're using that food, and then also all the food that they've grown in the garden behind the school. And they're doing a big event with the public who would want to come in and purchase picnic tables. This aligns with their agricultural department because they're building the picnic tables and then painting those that may reflect the school or whatever design a business may have in mind for the picnic table. So the head of the culinary challenged me to tell every board member they'd like for each one to buy a table or sponsor one. I think it's $250. Then what's unique about it is they will deliver your picnic table to your place of business, your home, wherever you want it. If you want to donate it to the school, they'll put it in the courtyard there, and it can be an advertisement for your business all year long. And so they're combining many academies, including the music group there as well, that is going to be orchestrating the music that will be played at the event. But it's about a 3-hour event. They're looking for 2 donations, if you can. Someone to donate a large tent, and also somebody who may have connections with the bluegrass band. So I told them that I would mention that, and I'll work on it as well. But they're really excited. All the money they're going to raise will be used at the school for those students and for those programs to further them along. But I'll give you more information when I have more, but I just think it's going to be...
That was on the 30th?
The 30th of March.
Good Friday.
So...
That sounds cool.
That's all I have.
And they'll paint it garnet and gold if I want to pick
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was called, what was it called again?
It's called From the Farm to Table.
Farm to Table.
Yep.
And they're asking us to donate $250.
I think each table is $250, and I believe you can have 8 guests that come with you. And of course, it includes your food and entertainment, and then also the table.
Too?
University High School.
Okay. You could put me down.
And actually, they're using the money. I tell you, they're using the money to purchase a walk-in freezer cooler for culinary, which is about $35,000.
Okay, you can put me down.
So.
And they have the room for the freezer?
Yeah.
And the hookup and everything? Okay.
So I just want to recap, because I didn't hear what you said about January the 11th. Where and what is it called?
January the 11th, I'm doing a presentation about the charter schools, the state of charter schools and how they affect public education. Okay. It's at the Swamp House Grill in DeBerry, 5:30 p.m.
26th, okay. I got the dates. Thank you.
Thank you.
DeBerry. Thank you, Dr. Hill. Mr. Persis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yesterday, I attended the Central Florida Public Schools Coalition meeting, and there was a presenter. I talked to a superintendent about it yesterday from Brevard County, and about two special programs. One was called the Unmanned Aircraft Systems Curriculum that they're doing. Those are basically known as drones. And all the information that the students are learning regarding unmanned aircraft systems, and how Embry-Riddle is even down there, of course, helping out, and just so many competitions, how high-tech programs like robotics, let's say. He just said there are so many things that students are learning from this kind of curriculum, and just said that they would strongly encourage other districts to get involved with this. He said students can build a drone engine like for $7, just $7. You can attach a camera for $14, and beyond your way. The other item was that they are requiring, like many districts are in Florida, that before students graduate, that they have a CPR course. This is not to get certified in CPR, but just to have that 1 hour training, so that in the event of a sudden cardiac arrest, that they would know what to do and how to use an AED, let's say. And then they just talked about how each district does it differently. Some take them out of PE classes, to use it in science classes. Orange County said I told the superintendent that they do it on World Heart Day, and they train 20,000 students on the same day. Again, this is not a long training, but it is something that the American Heart Association will certainly helps the local firefighters also help with this. And right now, in our legislature, which just started today, there is a House bill and a Senate bill addressing this and wanting this to happen in all of the districts. They were talking about one kit per high school, lasts about five years, costs $615. So this isn't a lot of money, but they gave example after example of how students who had this training actually saved someone's life. Wow. And when you start seeing that, you start hearing 3 or 4 stories, it really makes an impact. So I'm hoping that we can get on this.
Well, we had Dr. Grace Kellermeyer in cabinet today. Okay. And since February is Heart Month, yeah, she will be making a presentation to the board. We're ready to implement that for 18-19.
Great.
And there's a strategy. Sure. And she's going to go over that. So
that's awesome. And then lastly, there's a nonprofit, and I don't know too much about this, and I apologize for not doing my research before I got here, but it's a nonprofit called Who We Play For, and these are folks that actually test for heart issues, and it's just incredible how many people not knowing that they could be a candidate for a sudden cardiac arrest. They appear to be just normal, just everything's fine, perfectly healthy, and but yet there are some indicators, and you would know what those are, but that they can test for. And again, this isn't costing any money, but again, they just found out it just. Like within this one high school, they found 18 students who could, very seriously, could have sudden cardiac arrest issues, and didn't know. Just did not know about it. So a lot of good things, a lot of interesting things going on in the Central Florida area. And after that, then they just spoke about all the legislative bills that are being introduced today. And as you know, there are hundreds of them, and so many of them do affect public education, and we'll just wait and see. The next 2 months will be exciting, as always.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Persis. Mr. Russell, anything else? No things? Would you like to say anything, Mr. Dorian?
Not this week.
And how cold was it in Montana?
It was -2.
-2.
3 feet of snow.
Wow.
It was coming down in cotton balls. I didn't even know how I did that. The flakes would like somehow up high got together and they were dropping like the size of quarters.
Wow.
Sometimes.
Wow.
It was interesting.
Well, that's something we don't see here.
That's right. That's why I go there.
That's for sure. I'm recovering. I had surgery 2 days after our last board meeting, and I can walk today. So I had my left hip replaced. So it's a good way to do it. Spending my life, my whole career, on my feet, swiveling back and forth, bending and over student desks. It does take a toll on the hip. So glad to bring another partner to the board. A little foreign object, but when it's made out of titanium, I do not argue. I would like to have Ms. Mueller come up to the dais. We are approaching a new negotiation period. We're at the, I guess, the tail end of our 2-year contract with our unions. And I have a question on, I know we had our financial statements from September and October today. How are we doing? How does the district look in order to have a good faith negotiation period? How's it looking?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Excuse me. As far as how we ended last year, June 30th, 2017, our fund balance did increase. Our financial condition ratio increased slightly, but our unassigned fund balance increased from 5.1 to 6.2%. As you know, we gave raises over the 2-year period, this year and last year, of 4.25% and 2.5%. Which, without the substantial savings from health insurance and the capping of the premiums of the board share, we would not have been able to make those salary increases. So that is an ongoing savings. We also saw additional savings because there were some, about 400 employees who went off our insurance as well. We also had lost about $8 million last year from our FEFP revenue because we did not meet our enrollment projections. We're still waiting our third calc for fiscal year 17-18, which we should get sometime next week. But again, our enrollment projections were slightly below where we thought. When we estimated, we had the catapult FTE included in our projections. So we lost some of that enrollment, but then it was offset partially by the hurricane students that came from Florida and Puerto Rico. So, while we're not sure exactly, we're thinking maybe about $2 million. And from what I've heard, we don't anticipate a statewide proration, but it depends on the alternate counts that some of the districts are doing for the students that came from Puerto Rico into their districts. So, again, we won't know that right now, but excuse me. Again, when we adopted this year's budget, we did have a slight offset from fund balance to balance our budget. We're looking at, really being conservative this last half of the year. We're pretty much right on target where we had anticipated from an expenditure viewpoint. We have the financial statements through the end of November, so we really, until we get through December and have our third calculation adjustment, and we've paid all of our performance pay, salary increases, retros, and a hurricane pay, which all affect payroll, which is a substantial number. So in January, when we finish the financial statements for December, we should have a much better picture of where we stand. What I see going forward is, we presented the enrollment report to you last meeting, was that we don't foresee large increases in enrollment projections based on our demographics and the way things are changing for the upcoming year. With the legislative session starting today, one of the consistent messages we've heard from Mr. Negron is that he will not raise taxes. And there are two different perspectives on whether changing the required local effort, which is what the districts are required to levy on their taxable base, is raising taxes if you have increases in your property values. So what's been happening as we recover during the from the recession, our property values increase, but decreasing the rate that we apply to that keeps the tax collection substantially the same. So the way that it can boil down to in a simple manner is if you bought a lawnmower for $200 today and you paid 6% tax, you would pay about $12 on that. And then if you went in 2 months and you paid $220 for the lawnmower because the price increased, you'd pay still 6% tax, but you'd pay more tax because the price of the lawnmower had actually increased. So is that considered raising taxes? No, it's the same tax rate. You're just paying it based on a higher value. So that is the big argument, whether the Senate and the House, debate that, and I'm sure it will be ongoing. So going into negotiations, and the session is early this year, which will be good as far as us knowing what our numbers look like. Hopefully, last year it dragged out into June, but if we do have that information earlier, it will be helpful. We don't know whether the RLE will be offset by an increase in BSA, the base student allocation, which is what the governor is proposing. And either way, if there is not an increase somewhere in those formulas, the district will not see a new money because of our pretty flat enrollment projections. Okay. So our last time we went into negotiations, our 1% cost to increase salaries was just a little over $3 million, and that has increased as of this year about $200,000. So for every 1% we increase salaries, we'd pay about $3.2 million across the board for all of our employees.
Okay. And what about our DCD? When do we usually find out what our district cost differential will be?
The DCD will not be, I don't believe, in the first projections from the legislature, probably the second projection. So it's usually not right away that we find that adjustment.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming up.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have any questions of Ms. Miller? Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say thank you. I guess it's Mrs. Waite. When you put in the driver's education classes into the newspaper, and it's people are notified. So I can't tell you how many people who have approached me and said thank you, getting their 15 and 16-year-olds signed up for driver's ed. So thank you very much. Mr. Russell and I attended the Mayor's Roundtable meeting yesterday, and I was part of the Value Adjustment Board meeting yesterday, and it was a short one, Dr. Hill. So I was very happy. This morning, Ford Next Generation Learning had a visit at Spruce Creek High School, but due to a small family emergency, I wasn't able to attend. So I'm anxious to talk to Dr. Sparger to see how it went. As we go forward into the rest of the year, there are two things I would like for our district to address. Number one is teacher stress. And it's not just teacher stress, it's classroom stress. If we can do anything to help alleviate the stress in the classroom, whether it's testing, whether it's peer stress, whether it's paperwork, deadlines, if there's any way that our district can simplify paperwork, the due dates, so that it makes it easier for everyone in the classroom to have a little bit of alleviation. I remember years ago, when I was first hired in 1986, all I had to do was bring in my lesson plan book that I could write out in pencil, 1 week, put it on a copier, and hand it in. As long as I had my objective, my activities, and my assessment, I was set for the week. Since then, the paperwork has increased 1,000-fold. So if there is some way that and we were always told if they add something, they were going to take something away. Well, I have that rule for my closet, but that rule hasn't been, followed through very well in the classroom. And as we alleviate the stress in the classroom, it will help our students. It'll help our teachers, and especially administrators as well. They too are bombarded with paperwork. So it'd be, I would like to see some people get together to say, how can we alleviate the paperwork? Maybe with Mr. Spar, to get some ideas to reduce the stress in the classroom. That would be huge. And second of all, we talked a great deal about CTE, our last meeting, and I've talked more about it with Mr. Russell. I would like to, when I explained to Dr. Hill at our last meeting, and I've been thinking a lot about it because his discussion made me rethink about what I experienced, 20 years ago. And that was when I participated in a pre-tech program for students who were under 2.0. We were in danger of losing them. They felt that school was not addressing their needs. And New Smyrna Beach High School was unique in addressing their needs. And so we put together a team, and we had students who we all found. We had a guidance counselor address their needs. We had a reading teacher, English teacher, science, social study, a social studies teacher. At that time it was a guidance counselor, and now it'll be a school counselor, and an administrator to help work with the children to meet their needs. We brought mentors in, volunteers in the community to help them be successful. If we can bring up those scores, during their freshman, sophomore year, and then try to create some kind of dual enrollment program for the academy of their choice, or their career of their choice, or their trade of their choice, to start getting them prerequisite courses completed in high school. That would be at least a start for us to address the needs of our kids, to get them engaged, to stay in school, and get them to graduate from our schools. If we can do dual enrollment on the academic side, I think we can also manage dual enrollment on the academy side as well. A lot of good programs don't start off with a huge bang. They start with baby steps. So if we can find something, some awareness to address the needs of these children, to address their simple needs. And if we can dedicate some resources, whether it's grant money, because our program, that tech prep program that started in the early 90s, we had a 3-year grant, and once the grant was gone, a lot of the programs were gone. But if we can start with a small program or weed out a few with the academies and do a dual enrollment partnership with Bethune-Cookman, with Stetson, with Daytona State College, because a lot of our high schools are very close to a Daytona State or a Stetson or Bethune-Cookman program. If we could somehow work together collaboratively this second semester, maybe we can start something anew at the beginning of our 18-19 school year. So it's something to think about, something to percolate, as I said before. But I do agree with Dr. Hill, and also Mrs. Costello. She said that when she was here as well, addressing the needs of our students. I've heard Mrs. Wright be very concerned about it, as well as, of course, Mr. Persis, you too, and Mrs. Johnson as well. I think that's all in our hearts. It's just now getting down to putting it down on paper and finding a way. And with the talent that we have in this district, with the experience, when I start looking in the room and I look at the experience and the expertise in this room, it is just truly amazing. And I don't think, I think sky's the limit. I'm very hopeful that we can do this. A little bit at a time, but we can address the needs of these students, especially in our very prized, I mean, we are prized so well in our academies. Volusia County started this a long time ago. Somehow we kind of lost our way, and I think a lot of it had to do with the Depression and cutbacks. But when you think back, we've been, Dr. Hill, myself, Mrs. Johnson have only been on the board for 3 years. What the starting teacher salary was when we joined is very different from what it is now. And we've come very far from, from where we started. So I know if that can happen, anything can happen. So I'm willing to work on it if we can put some teachers, mentors, community members together and sit down and say, okay, what do you want to see? And especially parents. What do parents need from our school districts so we can meet their needs as well? So with that, are there any other questions, discussions?
I have one thing. When you were talking about teacher stress, I want to invite the board members to our principals meeting, our first principals meeting in February. Read a book, Humanizing the Education Machine, and one of the authors is going to be there. And some of us have heard their presentation, and he is going to do 2 presentations that day. What we heard and how we have to humanize the education machine, and it's a lot like you're just talking about. And then the next book that they're working on is Teacher Health, Classroom Health, and the research that they have found nationwide. So I asked that he give 2 45-minute talks. So we'll send that information to you all, but I believe it's February 1st. And then if you have an opportunity to get that book, Humanizing the Education Machine, it's a very good read.
Okay. All right. Yes,
Chair,
Mr.
Persis. You brought up February 1st.
Is it the 1st?
Well, it's a Thursday, but that happens to be the joint meeting, the South Daytona.
Yes.
Could you give us a little, what's that all about?
Sure. It's something that we'd like to start with different municipalities. Okay. And they've asked that we discuss South Daytona Elementary with them. I'm going to meet with their city manager. We want to keep these meetings only to an hour. And they have some topics that they want us to address. And, we can also share ideas. Okay. And we want to make sure, we want to start over on the east side, then we'll do a west side community, and then we'll do that.
I got it. Okay. So you'll be aware of what the issues are.
And you'll know ahead of time. I'll get the information to you.
Okay. So just so we're not blindsided.
Yes.
At the meeting. That's all.
Okay. All right. Anything else needs to come before the board? Okay. With that, it is 7:07. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.